I thought that today we would do a video about my, I suppose, interior design approach, my personal aesthetic, what I'm wanting to do for my apartment when I eventually find one that I want to pay rent for here in Melbourne. And in the meantime, throughout this process, the whole losing my job, starting my own, interiors practice and looking for an apartment, I have been getting a lot of inspiration and new ideas about what I want that apartment to look and feel like. Obviously, I don't know what the bones are going to be like because that completely depends on what I get, but I do have an idea of like some non-negotiables that I want in the apartment, and I think that the aesthetic that I'm looking to create is going to work well with that, regardless of the other things that come with it. So I think that's what we're going to talk about today. There are a fair amount of new subscribers, and I think this is also just another way to get to know me, my interior style, and if that kind of aligns with you and the videos I'm posting and what you like to watch on YouTube. So yeah, it's a little bit of a kind of get to know me through my interior design style. So that is the video for today. So I've got my laptop here because I'm going to reference some photos that I think will be helpful to try and capture what I'm talking about. Obviously, when we're talking about interiors and people's personal style, it's obviously very subjective and it's not always the easiest thing to communicate. So I'm trying to find photos that somewhat capture what I'm talking about, but really the best way for me to do that will be to actually take you through the process of creating my interiors when I do have an apartment and doing it sort of in segments as opposed to trying to encapsulate what I'm talking about as a whole. So just bear with me and take what I say with kind of a grain of salt. This is just sort of like a very basic overarching discourse about my interior design approach and kind of how I want to tackle that in the apartment that I get. Okay, I'm rambling, I know. I totally know. So I think for me, when I'm looking at interiors, particularly for myself, the first thing and the main thing that kind of never wavers is how do I want the space to feel? How do I want to feel in the space? What do I want other people to experience in the space? When I'm designing the interiors and visualizing what I want the space to be like, I'm not just thinking about myself in that space, but also people that I have over, like friends and family. I want the space to really emulate me and kind of everything that goes with that. As I've spoken about many times in my videos before, like my personal style, my personality, things that have story and meaning to them, even like my clothing choices and textiles, like everything I really want to be woven into my apartment. And that's not to say that it's going to happen straight away. It definitely is a process and an evolution, and I don't have any bloody furniture. I have like a few pieces of furniture. I have these outdoor deck chairs that are like from the 50s that I friggin' love. They're like these timber, really minimal, kind of sleek, slightly bent timber chairs, and I have taken them around with me, stored them at my mum's house for years because I refuse to get rid of them, but I know that they are one piece that I will always love, and that I think is the best way to find pieces for your apartment. And when you're not sure, if you have a piece for a long time that you can't really part with and you love it, then it's probably a good sign that that is an indication of your interior design approach and the things that you like. So again, a bit of a tangent, but moving on. So I think if I had to describe how I want the apartment to feel, I want it to feel warm, eclectic, thoughtful, welcoming, colorful, relaxing, calm. So like obviously there are a lot of descriptive words there, but that is really how I visualize the overall space. That's sort of how it would emanate those feelings and what I want it to feel like. So in the last video, I spoke about the different interior design personalities, and a lot of you guys actually said that there's a lot of crossover with those, which I completely agree with. I cross over in honestly almost all of the interior design personalities that I spoke about. So the collector, the curator, the minimalist, the bohemian, the naturalist, and that is in different like aspects of interior. So like with the naturalist, for example, that's definitely through materiality. Like I love anything woven, anything that's like a natural, non-man-made material. I will always choose that over something man-made if possible. And if you follow me on Pinterest, you've probably seen that in a lot of my textiles and furniture selections, they're very much leaning towards that woven sort of really intricate materiality, so to speak. I don't know if that's making sense, but I really like anything with like cane, rattan, woven leather. I think it's really interesting because you can also have a very simple piece of furniture, but having that detail just creates that really nice sense of interest. I think while I'm kind of talking about this, I'm just going to be popping some pictures on the screen that are hopefully encapsulating what I'm trying to sort of portray. Each of these items is really specific in a weird way, and a lot of them are pieces that I have kind of saved as things I know I want to get like down the line for my apartment, because I think for me personally, as I said, it's such a personal experience, and I know that those things encapsulate what I'm trying to portray in my apartment. So for example, there are some things that I had growing up, like in our family home, like a pepper grinder that always reminds me of my dad, or this like old school juice maker that we had that was like a reminder on weekends of like making orange juice and being with my sisters. And it's such a small thing, and maybe it's not the most aesthetically pleasing thing, even though I really like them, but I love having those reminders of childhood in my home and the things that pull to nostalgia, which is something I, again, definitely want to have in my space. In terms of materiality, I really love a mixture of things. I definitely love having, as I said, a lot of natural materials like timber, woven elements, like grass cloths and things, but I also really love the pairing of that with quite, I guess, hard surfaces. So I love, you know, stainless steel is like, I'm obsessed with it at the moment. And I posted recently on Instagram a kitchen by a Sydney-based interior designer, Alexandra Ponting, AP Design House, and she did this kitchen for her friend that was all in stainless steel, and it had a very commercial feel, but I really love that, especially in a kitchen. Stainless steel mixed with the brass, mixed with like the very functional elements. Obviously, in an apartment, I'm not going to have that, but I think there's still ways to play on that idea and play on recreating that sort of atmosphere. That being said, with those kind of harder elements, I do always want to pair it with something warmer, and I think I never want my apartment or space to feel super sterile or cold or uninviting or just clinical. That's really not what I'm looking to achieve. I think there's definitely a fine balance between harder, kind of cooler materials, but mixing that in with things that kind of contrast and give that sense of warmth that you're looking for in the space. I definitely think the space needs to be functional. That goes without saying for any space. Like the functionality of a space must come before the aesthetics. I see so many interiors where people they're just like so aesthetic, and I'm like, yeah, it's aesthetic, but I don't want to sit on that fucking chair because it looks like it would break my back. Like, it's not comfortable. I want to be able to be in my space, to have people in my space where they can feel like things are inviting, comfortable, usable. They can touch things, that I'm not going to be too precious about things. I really don't feel comfortable walking into people's homes when you feel like you can't touch anything and you feel really isolated in yourself because everything feels like a gallery, or it's just, yeah, not very inviting. Overall, I want to have obviously a lot of color in this space, but I think for me, when I think about color, I think more in a sense of tones. Like I really am drawn to earthy tones, rich tones that still imbue this sense of warmth, but I'm not really into really bright, over the top colors. It's just not me, and the space wouldn't really reflect me, I think, if that was the case. One thing I really want to do is have a very comfy armchair, like a reading chair, a big kind of slouchy, just not too precious armchair, but have eventually get it reupholstered in a custom slip cover in like a linen. And I really love this image that I came across recently of this. It's kind of like this purple tone linen, which I really love. Those like purpley tones, the kind of earthy tones, and melding them together in a way that also really complements timber and timber elements, whether that's timber flooring, furniture pieces, and then opposing that with like a harder surface might be like a really interesting side table or an interesting coffee table. And I think you're either gonna love it or hate it, but I actually really have a thing for glass tables, particularly like glass dining tables and desks. I found this one on Facebook Marketplace recently, which I really want to get, but I'm like, is this practical right now? But I actually really love the look of glass tables when you have, again, elements that warm them up, that make them interesting, that are not super cold and uninviting. I'm really drawn to mid-century design and also like 80s, 90s, early 2000s design in a way. Like there are certain elements that I'm really drawn to that I think I want to kind of integrate into my space, and a glass table I feel is so like 90s, early 2000s. And again, that's just super nostalgic for me. And I don't think they're the most practical thing. You see a lot of dust and shit on them and fingerprints, and you know, that is true. But I think as a desk, it could be a really cool element, even just to test out and see if I like it. And if not, sell it, move on to the next thing. It's either that or a big chunky wooden table, something really practical. So again, it's finding that balance between functionality and practicality, as opposed to just the aesthetic and the idea of something. You know, I think style and interior design style is such an evolution, and it's such a mix of kind of hit and miss elements of trying something and seeing whether or not it works out. And I'm constantly reinventing a space. And that's because I might see one thing, it might be like the smallest thing, like a clipping from a newspaper or a magazine, and it sends me on this like high, this wave of like needing to redo my interiors and feel really refreshed and excited about it. And it's probably the case for a lot of you as well, like wanting to reinvent your space, work with the space that you've got, the limitations, and make it into something new, so that you can get that sort of refreshed feeling like you've just stepped into a completely different space. So this is not set in stone. These are just elements that I'm kind of overarchingly wanting to incorporate into my space. So if I had to sum it up, it would be textural, layered, warm, inviting, collective, mismatched. I really love arts and craft, functional, and cool, I suppose. But again, very difficult for me to kind of paint that picture. We're moving out of this house soon because the building works are going to start, I think, in about a few weeks, in May at some point. So that in itself will allow me to show you a project from start to finish. So once everything's out of the house, it's gutted, kind of the step-by-step process that you guys can follow along with. And then hopefully in a few months, I will be in my own apartment and can also take you through that step process of updating the apartment and doing different things to it and taking you along and sharing those ideas, getting your feedback, having conversations with you guys about what you think. And yeah. So I know that was a very kind of quick, chatty video, and I hope that some of the pictures kind of created a sense of what I'm looking to create when I do get my apartment. Collect pieces, get rid of pieces. It's this constant, like, as I said a million times, evolution of creating a space that is a real reflection of you and your evolution. So that's kind of the plan going forward, and I'm so excited. It probably doesn't show, but I'm so excited, can't contain myself. I've almost been preventing myself from like thinking about it too much, because I honestly get so carried away, and I'm actually super busy at the moment, and it's not really boding well for me to spend time thinking about that too much. I will continue doing the interior design advice for people. As I said in my last video, I think I said, at the moment I'm trying to get drawings done for the builders for my mum's place, which is the project that I'm currently working on. And basically what's happening is they need drawings to quote the building costs, like for tender, so that we can then make changes as we need to either cut costs, which we probably will need to because building costs are through the roof at the moment. So that's what I'm trying to kind of get done, and all my time is going to that. So that's why I haven't been uploading as much. But once that's done, I'm going to focus more on kind of taking you along on that project and uploading more videos each week, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight into my interior design style and approach and what I'm looking to do for my own space. It's going to be such a fun thing to do. Like, I love watching other people's home updates. It's like one of my favorite videos. Obviously Paige Wassel, like Rob Giggs, Ethan Gaskell. I just love all those. I love home updates. It's so fun because you feel like you're there with the person and you're like in that process with them, and it's just the best. So can't wait to take you guys along with me on that. And yeah, I hope that, as I said, you got to know me a little bit more through this video. And if there's anything that you want to see in upcoming videos, feel free to leave a comment below. Subscribe to my channel. If you like these videos, give it a thumbs up, a like, and as I always say, I upload interiors videos every Sunday. Until then, I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.